Hello.
Hello, there we
I'm
go.
This is my brother Arjun, and
Hi, Arjun. And can you say your name again?
so I'm Annika.
Hi, Annika.
Today we're going to be asking you a lot of questions, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
So we should get started.
Okay.
Um, First, please tell us a bit about yourself.
That's a great question, Arjun. My name is Annika, and I am a mechanical engineering graduate from the University of Toronto. And I used to be a classroom teacher for about 15 years, which I really enjoyed. And now I have the great honor of working for First Robotics Canada as the First LEGO League Challenge program manager. Um, I'm a proud cat and dog owner, and I love to train in karate and practice yoga in my free time.
Well, we saw that actually when we were searching up about you. So, second question, how did you get involved in First?
Well, as I mentioned, I used to be a classroom teacher at a school in Scarborough, Ontario. And after I had been teaching for about 10 years, a new vice principal came to work at my school. And because I guess I had this mechanical engineering degree, the vice principal voluntold me that I was the new robotics coach for the school. It's not a program that we had at the school before. And despite my training, I didn't have any experience building or programming robots. And so I ended up learning alongside my students. And in those first few years, despite my inadequacies as a coach, they actually did really well. They used to qualify for provincials every year, and so that's how I first got involved. And then I ended up um, incorporating robotics into my class, and then I ended up working for the Toronto District School Board to help other teachers who wanted to become robotics coaches and also to use robotics in their classrooms. So I was able to share my passion and excitement for that program with a lot more people, so that a lot more students could participate.
Speaking of the provincials, we made it to the provincial last year.
Congratulations.
And then we
I remember seeing your team, and I didn't see your team, right? Because the provincials were held remotely last year.
Third question. If you could change one thing about FLL, what would it be?
If I could change one thing about FLL, I guess the one thing, I mean, there's not much that I would change about the program itself because I think it's awesome the way it is. I think it gives youth with a whole bunch of different interests and skills and talents an opportunity to participate. So you don't have to necessarily know how to code and program robots, but you learn how to do that anyways. But students that have great artistic abilities or speaking abilities or research and communication skills can also really benefit their team, but also benefit from participation. So I think the one thing I would change would be getting more youth involved. So if there was a way to, I would say for youth that are typically underrepresented in STEM fields or in educational and career pathways related to STEM, I would want to find a way that really every young person could participate in first. So that's the one thing I wish for the program.
And also, that actually reminds me of something. When we were searching up about me, we also saw a lot of stuff about STEM. And we actually have a question about that too. We'll get through in a sec. So our fourth question is, what's your favorite part of FLL? There are so many different aspects.
Thank you for asking. Yeah, well, I have quite a few a few favorite parts about FLL. I think that participation in FLL gives youth a sense of agency. which means like they feel like they can make a difference, and they develop self-efficacy. So um, it's similar. It means that they can accomplish what they set out to do, and can always do more. And so I think that participation helps develop these two things. As kids like you are solving real world problems. I also like the way in which it gives kids an opportunity to develop skills that they can use no matter what academic or career pathways they choose. So even if they don't want to go into a STEM field, they still learn great speaking skills and collaboration skills, and they develop creativity and problem solving skills. So I like that's what people get out of participation. And also, I mean, I'm sure you've experienced this, but just that sheer joy that students like exude when they program their robot to move for the first time. I don't know if you remember, and like you probably clapped, and I see this all the time, when I'm teaching people how to do, the basics, and their robot does what they want, and they just get so excited. And I think um, it's an unself-conscious joy that people express. It's really exciting and rewarding. As their skills develop, they can get their robots to do even more and more complex tasks and challenges.
Yeah, I remember when we learned how to make our robot turn, we were so excited.
Yeah, and also line follow. Line follow
okay.
was really difficult for us, and we actually managed to get it a bit, which is really exciting for us. And every time we did it, I just kept on jumping with joy.
Yeah, so you were jumping, some people clap, some people just like scream. And so I'm so grateful to you for sharing that with me, because line following is really challenging, but such a useful skill, right? Especially when you're navigating around on the field, and it can be really like it's pretty advanced.
Yeah.
So well done.
Yeah.
Sorry,
It can
Annika.
also go wrong at any moment. Like our sensors kept having to be recalibrated, so it never worked sometimes.
Yeah, and I'm when you mentioned that word recalibration, it reminds me that there's actually a conference coming up next week, and one of the workshops is about light sensor calibration. So now, even though you already know how to do that, I'm hoping that other teams will tune in, and maybe they'll learn something that will benefit them this season.
Mm-hmm. What are 3 major challenges with FLL?
Like this year, or just in
this
general?
Year. Like this year and last year too, because COVID and all.
Any year.
Okay. It was challenging for teams to meet during last season. I'm not sure how many kids are on your team, or if you were able to get together, but I know it was challenging to support teams that did decide to participate, because they still wanted to work together, but we had to offer suggestions and find ways for them to do so in a safe way that still made the students feel like they were engaged and excited about the program. And how could they work together remotely to do the same kind of things that they would normally do when they were meeting in person. I think that was a challenge for many teams, and it was also challenging to see so many teams have to take time off when they really love the program, but for understandable reasons they weren't able to get together in a safe way and prepare for those remote qualifying tournaments. So finding ways to keep members of the FIRST community engaged and connected with one another, even though they weren't necessarily competing or participating as a team last season, was challenging. I don't know if you saw the show, but there was a weekly broadcast called FIRST Canada Live, and we had lots of great segments for teams, and so there was a way for people to stay up to date on what was going on, even if they didn't have a team last year. So I loved inviting teams onto the show and talking to teams on that show. And yeah, I think it was just a great way to keep FIRST in their lives, even if they weren't on a team.
Yeah, if there's one bright side to the COVID thing, we can connect to different continents now, because our cousin, he lives in India, and he could connect with us for the first time for FLL because COVID, and we could meet online.
Oh my gosh, he was on your team? Yeah, I remember the judges telling me that they had basically a student who was calling in from a very, very different time zone and had to come to the judging session, which was, like say like 7 o'clock at night here, but they whatever time, I don't know what time that would have been for your cousin or nephew, but that's great that they were able to adjust and still be able to show up live for that.
Next question. As far as more and more activities are done virtually, what are the possibilities of having team members from different countries, especially when where FIRST hasn't been able to reach or conduct competition?
Although many people have been very negatively affected by the pandemic, there have been some changes made to the way in which the program runs that allows people, not even just from other countries, but even remote areas in Ontario, to participate. And they would maybe be so far away from one another that they couldn't meet in person, but they could still meet in virtually. And as I mentioned, that conference we were having, I mentioned earlier, the conference we were having both last year and this year, we've got international presenters. So we have folks from the States and from Romania and Libya. So it's a great opportunity for people from around the world to connect and share their experience and expertise and celebrate successes and problem solve challenges together. Probably know having a diverse group really brings different perspectives to the table. So that diversity could come from geography, it could be racial diversity or cultural diversity. And so I think we'll all improve because of the diverse perspectives that we're able to get by meeting virtually.
What is your greatest concern about the program?
Okay, so my concern is that there are kids that are really clever or really deserving of this type of experience, but that they don't have access to the programs. They either don't know about it or financially it's too expensive for their family or their school, or they don't have anyone to coach or mentor them. So I think, yeah, my main concern would be how to make sure that everyone knows about the program and can participate if that's something in which they're interested.
That makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Question 8. What would you imagine FLL in the future like?
There are always ways that FLL is evolving on a small scale. I think that there might be some evolutions in the robot game to sort of increase the number of students that can be technicians and involved with coding and building the robot and strategizing to complete missions. And on a large scale, I think we're going to see more partnerships with organizations, taking some of the innovative solutions that teams create, and finding ways to implement those solutions to make the world a better place. So I think we're going to see ways to take kids' ideas and turn them into a reality. And I also think the technology that's used to build and program the robots will constantly evolve. As you know, just this year or last year, the new Lego Spike Prime came out. So there will be small changes, but then there will also be, I think, bigger changes in the world because of what the teams are doing.
And also, last year we used EV3. This year we're using Spike Prime. And I gotta say though, Spike Prime, it's basically like a combination of Scratch and EV3.
Okay. What are your impressions? Like, what do you like and dislike about it?
I like that it feels like there's more options. There's the lights. The lights is really cool. Like you can make your own design for the robot, like when you complete a mission or something, which is really cool. And also something we learned is that you can use it to use you can use the animations for timing also when you're testing, you can use it for timing too to see if the program works, which is really a good idea.
I didn't know you could make an image on it.
Yeah, you can.
Wow.
Super cool.
That is super cool, and it's a great way to troubleshoot your programs. Well done. I can't wait to see your Lego Spike Prime robot driving around that Cargo Connect field during your pre-recorded robot matches.
Thank you. Okay. How are you promoting / supporting STEM?
We are trying to bring the First Lego League program to as many schools across Ontario as possible. There are some grants available or rebates available to teachers and coaches that start teams or that decide to implement the First Lego League program in their classrooms. And because finances are sometimes a barrier to participation, we feel that by removing some of the financial burden from schools and from teams, that there's a bigger chance that youth will be able to participate in FLL programs, and through participation they learn science, technology, engineering, and math. So by continuing to let people know about the program and support those that decide to participate, I think that more and more youth will get excited about STEM and inspired to pursue STEM related, as I mentioned earlier, STEM related education and career pathways.
So, what is the plan to get more girls in the program?
Yeah, there are a few different things that we're trying, that First Canada is working on, not only to encourage girls to participate, but also Black and Indigenous youth and students with disabilities or with special education needs, and other students from underrepresented or underserved populations. So by recruiting coaches and volunteers and First Canada staff from diverse backgrounds, girls in particular in this case will see themselves reflected in the leadership and at events, and so they'll hopefully feel as though that First is a place for them because they see other people who are like them. And as I mentioned before, there are also a lot of grants or rebates available for teams that have either all girls or a majority of girls on the team. So I feel like this would encourage coaches to recruit girls to be on their teams if they were going to get some financial benefits from doing so. We also have a lot of industry partnerships with companies that have women who are employees and think that they can act as role models for younger girls and as mentors for younger girls who want to participate in the program.
Yes. Now, the next question we have. If you could go back in time and experience something that has happened to you again, what would it be?
So there are so many things that I would want to go back and do, some because I enjoyed them so much and some because I feel like I didn't do very well the first time. So I think maybe I'll give an example of both. I participated in a teacher exchange program. So about maybe almost 15 years ago, I traded schools and traded houses with a teacher from Australia. And so I lived there for a year and she lived at my house here for a year. And that was pretty fun. So I wouldn't mind doing that again. And as I also mentioned, I was a teacher for 15 years. And I would say we did some pretty cool stuff. I was a science teacher. We did heaps of experiments and building projects, but I feel like I could have been a better teacher to some students. And I would love to go back and be even better so that everyone had as good of an experience as they could have had in my class.
Hmm. Hmm. So this is a fun question. If you could relate to one character from anything you've seen, like a movie or a book, who would it be?
Relate to. Look, I'm just thinking of a documentary that I saw recently. So it's actually about a real person, if that's okay. And I don't know if I can relate to them yet, but I really admire them. Is that okay? So I watched a documentary. It was called An Ordinary Hero. And it was about a woman called Joan Trumpauer. And she was a civil rights activist in the 1960s before either of us were alive. And she was very brave. She had the courage to stand up against segregation and other forms of racism where she lived and across her country. And so she's someone that I really admire, and because of her courage. And she got into, I'm not suggesting people do this, she got into some situations like that were like fairly dangerous and uncomfortable for her, but she believed in anti-racism so much that she was willing to really stand up for that.
Let's see here. If you were the prime minister, what would you do so you could help kids?
I don't know if it's the kids that need help. The kids aren't the one that needs help. It's the adults, I think. Because the kids that I see that are participating in First Lego League are really give me hope for the future, and so I think those ones are doing something right. Yeah, so I'll stick with that.
If the kids are all right, what's wrong with the adults?
I think they might need to unlearn a few things, myself included, and look at some of the systems in place that disadvantage certain groups of people, so that as I keep saying over and over again, so that more people have opportunities like participation in FIRST, but not just that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, what are some new things you have like reflected upon or learned during the lockdown?
I have a deep sense of gratitude for actually the people with whom I work at First Robotics Canada. Everybody at that organization has been very supportive of one another and have been very innovative and hardworking to try and find ways to, as I mentioned earlier, like support teams that were participating, but keep engaged the ones that couldn't for understandable reasons. And they just came up with so many good ideas and turned them into a reality very quickly and worked really well together. And so I guess I just developed even more gratitude for the people with whom I work, and was really inspired by the way in which everyone came together. I also reflected a lot on my personal privilege because, as I mentioned earlier, there were a lot of people that were more negatively affected by the pandemic than I was. And every day thought about, and most days found ways to support those that were more negatively affected for a whole bunch of different reasons. So I was feeling a bit just checking my privilege and realizing that not everyone has necessarily the same advantages, and not just because of COVID, but all the time.
Feeling a bit, yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Everyone needs to be treated equally and fairly.
I like that.
Okay. Question.
We lost count.
We lost count. Question. If you could change one thing about the world, what would it be?
Not just FLL, just the whole world.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take your suggestion, Arjun, and say I think everybody should be treated. I say not necessarily equally, but equitably. There's a bit of a difference, which you probably know, but equally means everyone gets the same thing, but equitably means everyone gets what they need. So you and I might not need as much as some other people, and so I think being treated equitably and fairly, I'm gonna copy yours, Arjun, and use that one.
Well, that's still a very good thing to change about the world.
Yeah, and the world needs it, especially at a time like this. So I think this is our final question. Do you have a message of inspiration?
Yeah, I say continue to be kind to one another and continue to the world a better place, both in your own communities and abroad. You have the skills and the knowledge and the enthusiasm and the passion to make a big difference in the world. And I can't wait to see what the world looks like as a result of the contributions and the impact that you will make.
So I think that was all our questions.
So that was it.
Yeah.
I wish we had time for me to ask you all of the same questions, because I'm interested to hear what are some of the changes you would make to FLL and in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we still have a few minutes if you want to ask.
Like
Yeah.
a couple questions.
What would you change about FLL and or about the world?
So in FLL, I know most teams don't have a whole lot of girls because I think that Argent's team only has like one or two. Maybe.
Two.
Oh, okay. So I'd like to get more girls in the program. And that's one of the only things I change about it because I think it's a great program.
I think it's a really great program, but the main thing I would change is just one thing actually, like what Annika said. I want to get more people involved. Like basically what you had for your answer. I want people with disabilities. I want people, so everyone that hasn't ever experienced FLL before, I want them to experience it and just know how it feels, so they can enjoy what we are already enjoying.
Yeah, thank you. And what do you think, I guess it's okay if you're not sure, but what do you think prevents girls, for example, from participating, or what do you think could be done to help encourage more to draw more of them into the program?
So I think that one of the things, it's not such a big thing. I'm not sure what the biggest issue is, but I think one thing is stereotypes. A lot of people expect girls to be cooking or cleaning, doing household chores. That's not a very good stereotype at all.
Yeah, girls are actually as like maybe even more capable than boys. But I'd say they're just boys just treat them unfairly because
they believe they're better.
Yeah,
they're really not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested in that when you mention stereotypes, because there's this phenomena called stereotype bias, where if there's a stereotype about you, you actually start to behave that way, even if it's not true. So there was a study done, because there's a stereotype, Arjun, as you're just saying, like maybe like even though girls can do math and science just as well, there's a stereotype that they can't. And so there was a test that was given, it was a math test that was given out. And when people had to write their gender on the test, so if you had to indicate if you're a male or female, girls did worse. But if they wrote the test and they didn't have to put down their gender, they did same or better. And so there's this perception that, oh, there's this stereotype about me that I'm bad at math, and now that I've shown that I'm a girl, I'm going to do as bad as people think I will. It's such a weird phenomena, but it happens a lot. So so you mentioned what you would like to see changed about FLL, but what about the world?
Okay, so there are two main things. I'd like everyone to be treated, like you said, equitably. And then the second thing is I'd like to stop polluting the environment before we completely
Yes.
the earth we live in.
Good time.
I thought you did everything.
Same. You agree.
Yep. We think alike. We were born on the same day. Actually, she's just 2 years older than me.
What? You have the
So,
same birthday?
yeah.
Well, that's great. Happy belated birthday. I'm glad you got to celebrate in a way that was really enjoyable for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, well, look, thanks for considering me for this, and have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.